So, Mr. David Ross from Ross, and the question are, what are the trends that you see, like the first day of the exhibition? What you see as an attendant and as an exhibitor, also as a visitor? I'm sure that you visited some sites.
I've been around a little bit, but mostly on day one I like to stay close to the stand so that I can be here for the customers and for our business partners. But what I can see on our stand, it's very, very busy, so it's really good because this is the first year we've had equipment on the booth since 2019. We missed 2 IBCs, and then we have this IBC with we just had people, and now we're back like we used to be. So this is exciting for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So from the trends point of view, especially compared to 2019, which is the last real IBC that I think we ever had, the world has changed. You could say that there's a little more talk about the cloud, a little less talk about 2110, and still we're talking about SDI.
Okay.
You know, it's an interesting transition. So, and we're also talking about NDI as well. So, as the way that our video equipment is connected together is always changing, it seems. And it's not really a trend so much as the world is fragmenting into many different ideas of it should be on-prem, it should be in the cloud, it should be in software, it should be in hardware. The trend is there is no trend.
The trend is there is no trend. Okay, what are the main directions of development, most characteristic in your segment of the industry? But you are in all segments of the industry, as I understand. You know? So it's a tough question.
So what's the most interesting development of our segment of the industry?
Yeah.
We could say our segment of the industry is mostly content creation, live production.
Yeah, I understand.
And we're seeing things like Remy production, for example, for sports, becoming much more commonplace. So the idea of having cameras on site, using the internet to send video back to control rooms and doing the production there. We're also seeing something that we call distro as well.
Distro?
It's a Ross video term, and that is not just going back to a centralized control room, but also people working out of their homes still, just like they did in COVID. Because it's one of the funny things about remote production is that you used to have to fly people to go to the site where you have the production. And then when you have a remote control room, depending on where it is, you still have to fly them, but you're flying them to the remote control room and you're still paying them for their hotel bills and their meals and things like that. You might get them to do more productions in a day because they can do different places.
But they're flying,
but they're still flying and they're not at home. So now we're seeing situations where people are now working out of their home and you don't have to pay for their meals because they can get it out of their own refrigerator, and you're not paying for anything other than their time.
Yeah, I just spent some time with your colleague, is the manager of the technical support, and he lives in the United States and they manage it in Canada.
Right.
The guy in the suit.
Oh yes,
Eric. Yeah. So explain me that it's a...
So I have a question in that remote production. So for the longest time, latency has been the bane of everybody's existence. Have we solved the latency issue, or have we solved the latency perception in remote production?
That's a good one. It depends on what you're looking at. When you say our cloud-based graphite product, which is a production switcher, an audio mixer, all that runs in the cloud, they're saying that between the switch and seeing it happen on the screen, it's only 200 milliseconds. Now, it's not the same as when it was a 1 or 2 frame delay and you'd sit there on the cross points going back and forth and it worked. I wouldn't do music production remotely on the cloud. But that doesn't always take into account further remote production. That's just from one site going up to the cloud and back down, having a good connection. If you want to then go to a venue, in that venue, you're going to pay a lot for the transmission. So now you're going H.264. And you're going multi-hop through the cloud, all of a sudden, now you're into 1 to 2.5 seconds of delay. the way that that's being solved, because it's not getting any faster yet, the way that gets solved is the way you do your production. Your cameraman has to know that he has to hold on the subject for an extra 2 seconds before he moves, because you're going to see it later. And you have to count down your talent to make sure that they know when we're actually starting. So it's you work around the delay by managing your production itself. In my mind, I miss the good old days of when you put your hand like this in front of an analog signal, and it was almost completely in tune.
Right. I always say timing, it's interesting, timing has changed. In the past, timing had to be so accurate because of color.
Right.
And then as we've gotten more modern, timing has gotten sloppier. And now we get to PTP, and timing is even sloppier, but now people are worried about latency. So it's like a double-edged sword. We're sloppy with timing, but we need better timing.
Well, what's funny, as I heard something today, there was another, I won't say which manufacturer or software developer was talking about this, but they're talking now about the value of asynchronous video and how nothing has to be timed anymore. And I thought to myself, well, that's really interesting, because it used to be when you designed a television facility, the first thing you did is you timed everything going into the router so you could switch and everything would work. The way you get around that with asynchronous video is, of course, you have to put in frame syncs. You have to put in video delays. So what I'm laughing about, especially in things like the cloud, is audio and video do not always line up. And the more you encode it and frame sync it and drop frames and things like that in the process, the worse the audio-video delays get. I'm waiting then for 2 years from now that people who thought about the value of asynchronous video are now going to be talking about the problems we have with lip sync and the problem we have with production delays and glitches in the video and things like that. And it's like, it'll go full circle again, and then they'll start to be talking about the value of timing everything going into the cloud.
I had a customer who was complaining that 1.5 seconds delay was too much. And I'm like, you can't press the button, or 1.5 frames, excuse me. You can't press the button that fast.
No.
And then we got it down to 1.5 seconds. He goes, oh, that's still not, or 1.5 frames. That's still not fast enough. So we wound up having to go hardware based and wound up getting it in lines of delay. And I'm like, that was the question. Have we gotten to the point, do we accept that delay a little bit more? Or to your point, I think, which makes a lot of sense, that we've learned to work around the delay. We do things differently to account for the delay, and then maybe there's some acceptance of the delay as well.
There is more of an acceptance of the delay, but it's painful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if somebody could come up with a solution of H.264 remote transmission and cloud production that had lines of delay, they would be very rich.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
And we have another 2 questions. One of them, what new product is your company showcasing in IBC? And this is new?
For IBC, yes, this is new for sure.
This is supposed to be, what is this? If you can, please, describe it to us.
All right. So basically, what we're showing is XR production and a total solution for that. And one of the challenges that you have when you want to do XR, and let me explain it. XR is extended reality. Mm-hmm. So extended reality is the idea of doing, it's like virtual production where you would have either things in front of the talent or images behind the talent, but you used to do it with green screen. Okay? And now we're putting a Ross LED screen behind the talent, which means you have no edges, no green shadows. You can wear green, you can wear green if you want to in front of the screen, and it always looks perfect. But because it's using the Unreal Engine, when you have a camera looking at the scene behind you, you can look through into the three-dimensional world. And as the camera moves, you would show exactly what it would look like on the screen from that camera position.
Not from time again.
So it's not just a flat screen. it's not 3D, but it's as if it was a 3D world as you move the camera and zoom in and out.
There is a
what's on it-
perspective.
There's a
Yeah, it gives you
perspective that shows
parallax.
up.
Are you using your own camera tracking or are you using a third-party camera tracking?
It depends.
Okay.
So right now at the show, what we're showing is two types of cameras. One is a Furio. So a Furio is a dolly-based camera that can move along a track and has beautiful moves. And it knows where it is to the millimeter in three-dimensional space. So in that case, there's no tracking. On the other hand, beside it, we're using a jib. And jibs are notoriously bad for sag and wobble and things like that. So even if you think you know where the jib is, you don't know where the camera really is hanging off that jib. And so in that case, you need to use a third-party tracking, and we interface with all of them. And so we're taking both of those systems and bringing them into our engine and controlling it from our Lucid controller. Because one of the things is when you're working in a world using the Epic Games engine as at the core, which is what our Voyager system does, is not designed for broadcast. Epic Games doesn't understand MOS, it doesn't understand real-time needs, it doesn't understand the fact that you need to do unexpected triggers during a live production and bring in data as well. So that's what our Lucid system does. It's like a control panel for a three-dimensional world.
So do you believe that system, is that system's competitor something like Disguise?
Well, Disguise does some things like that, but they're more known for doing some cool things in an entertainment venue.
Right.
You can see Zero Density does things like that, but they don't necessarily have the controllers, and they also don't do the screen, and they also don't do the robotics control, and they also don't do the creative work. So we also have Rocket Surgery, who creates the art that can go behind to driving it, because you can have all the technology in the world, but if you're not an artist, it's not going to work.
Right.
So what we're able to display right there is taking all of that together. And of course, you can switch it with a Ross production switcher. You can control it with an editorial system. It speaks MOS. It can tie into your newsroom system, and so on.
Are you seeing that as the big trend now? I mean, was it the first NAB after the pandemic? Everybody's booth had an LCD wall, and that was the thing. But last year, you didn't. I was expecting to see AI in every booth, and you didn't see that. But do you see sort of that extended reality really becoming something more important, say, in the news and live production?
I think so, yeah. There's a fundamental advantage to being able to do XR with LED versus doing it with green screen.
Right.
And that advantage, other than the fact that you eliminate all chroma key artifacts, is the talent can interact with what's on the screen. If you're doing, say, weather, or you're doing a presentation, they have to look at a monitor that's not where the camera is necessarily. It might be off because the prompter is underneath
the Weather
camera.
Channel for 6 years.
And so you look there, you memorize where it is, and you choreograph yourself to point at what the thing is. And you sort of go, it's over here somewhere. And you can sort of tell at home that there's a weather front coming in over here.
Do you see that also being, one of our big things when I was at the Weather Channel was that we would change our set, and that was the set for the next 5 years. This really enables you to sort of have almost any set you want and build smaller practical pieces to add value. Absolutely. You see that help, like news being able to really change things up?
Well, so that's one of the things that I thought was interesting, is that we have some people that are buying LED walls and doing it this way because they can't afford a practical set. Now, at the same time, it's not for low end. I would say that as well, because an LED wall is going to run you $200,000 to $500,000 depending on how big you want your studio.
So I'm not
to
getting
be.
one in my basement anytime soon for my studio.
You are not getting one in your basement. And so you still have customers that are that green screen is going to be cheaper. You're going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars with a green screen. But then you're going to get a production that has flickering shadows, errors in here, transparencies along the arms, and person guessing where the thing is going to be. And it's one more variable that's going to go wrong. The nice thing about the LED is when you turn it on, it's going to look great. And when you turn on your chroma keyer, who changed the lighting? Who moved that light? Why doesn't it look to get who changed somebody else tweaked a knob and all of a sudden we can't do our production because there's big black shadows on either side. So it's cheaper, but you pay in another way.
And of course, the last question is the AI and the implementation of AI in your product.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yes, we do AI too. Why not? Ask me every question. Hopefully the answer is yes. So obviously we have a MAM product and we're showing for the first time Streamline Pro here on the show floor, and it's the integration of a product we bought called Prime Stream and our existing MAM Streamline, and a whole bunch of new technology and new user interface coming together. So Streamline Pro is something we're very excited about, and it's integrating with our Inception news system and our graphics system and things like that for a total solution. And of course, in it has AI for being able to do the metadata tagging and things like that, and video and images.
It's your own AI, or you're using some already existed?
We are using somebody else's AI for that. Although everybody, in the end, always uses somebody else's AI because we're building on whatever somebody else did. But it's our implementation of somebody else's AI. However, that's not our only AI. But wait, there's more. So in our camera motion systems, we also have something called Visionary, and there's a little thing about AI in the way we spell the word visionary, and it's using our own AI for facial tracking, head tracking, body tracking, to be able to have a camera lock on talent and understand that. And so what we found, because this is about our second year of AI with Visionary, and it's been quite successful actually. We've been told it's the best AI for camera tracking in the industry right now, which is good because I spent a lot of money developing it. Things that can go wrong are when a producer or a talent jumps up and sits down again, because they're out of the frame so fast that the AI forgets who it is, and then when they come back, thinks it's somebody else.
Okay.
Other things is they can, when they start the show, they may look down at a piece of paper or their laptop and look back up, and the angle of their face changes so much that if you're not careful, the AI can lose the facial tracking and things like that. The other problem you can have is when you have multiple people coming in onto the set, walking in front of each other, and still being able to track the person that you've said, focus on this person. And so, and then when you zoom back, some of the challenges as well of what's the camera supposed to do, how fast is it supposed to move, because you have, it's not just facial tracking, it's once you have the facial tracking, you need more AI to say, what's the camera robotics supposed to do? How much is it supposed to turn? What are the motors supposed to do? And how fast is it supposed to move? And when is it supposed to move? So there's a lot of aspects to that sort of AI. And now at the show, we're taking it further and saying, when you have multiple cameras connecting into newsroom systems and camera control systems, how do you handle AI for 6 cameras all at once at the same time with a proper user interface? And how do you pull these together so a human being can actually control that many AIs? And so we're doing that as well.
You just need Skynet.
Skynet, yes.
Yeah.